One of the hardest things that I've found is to not take things personally, whether that be a life circumstance or something that someone has said or not said. It's very difficult to not take something personally. And since so much of what I talk about on this channel has to do with letting go of the personal self, I thought that it would be appropriate for us to deepen our understanding of how to let go of the personal self by understanding how to not take things personally. But before I begin, if at any point you find that this information is helpful, then please like, share, subscribe, or comment so that this channel can grow and reach more people who might also benefit from watching. And if you feel that what I'm saying is resonating with you and you're interested in working with me, then please reach out to me at the email that I've provided in the description box below. Removing the label. Whenever I've taken something personally in the past, what always precedes that event is me deciding to put this person or the situation that's hurting me into a box, into a label. And what I mean by this is I decide in my mind that this thing is either good or bad, or that it's very specifically a certain way. And what it is a judgment. In short, that's what we're doing when we label something as good or bad. And you'll begin to notice when you deeply contemplate what happens when we take something personally is that this is always the first step. This is always the first thing that happens before we actually take something personally. When we do this, we're limiting the situation. We're fixing it. We're taking that situation and we're fixing it into our own mold. And when we mold the situation so that all we see is that specific mold, then there's nothing else that we can see beyond that mold. We've fixed the situation or the person so that it is stuck in time. It's stuck in our mind in a very specific way, and there's no getting past that. And this is the danger whenever we limit something or someone, because we don't allow for them or for us to break free of what it is that we think is going on. The other thing that labeling or judgment does is that it makes us feel separate from the other person. I talked about this in my last video about communication, but what we're really wanting when we're communicating or when we're relating to other people is that we want to feel that we're connecting with them. So the last thing that we're able to do is feel connected when we're judging someone. Judgment is the fastest way to separation. Remember that. It is the fastest way. There is no faster way to get there. It's like the jet airplane way to get to feeling separate. So what's the opposite of that is letting go of our judgments, letting go of the need to fix and limit a situation or a person. And when we let go of those limitations, then we make space and we make room for the possibility of healing. We make room for the possibility of seeing something in a different way, of not taking things personally. Whenever we're taking something personally, there's a story attached to it. There's a personal story attached to it. There's this feeling that this person is doing something wrong. And the minute we do that, the minute we label this person and put them in that limiting box of wrong, then that's the only thing that we're ever going to be able to see about the situation. We're never going to be able to see outside of that because our perception of them is fixed in wrong. In order for us to break free of not taking something personally, we need to drop the judgment so that we can see something else about them and about the situation. No one's thinking about you. Okay. What I mean by this is not that no one is thinking about you, because most people, most of the time, are thinking about themselves. And this is just a fact. We are all doing it. All of us, all of the time, are thinking about how life is affecting us personally. And why is this? It's because we still think of ourselves as separate people. Unless you're an enlightened being walking around, a master of the body and the mind, then most likely you're going to be thinking about yourself. You're going to be thinking about how you feel about what's happening to you in your life, how what somebody else said to you is making you feel or think, how you have to do certain things in your life for yourself. So there's a lot of thinking about yourself. And I would say that 99.9% of the time, this is what's happening with everyone. I'll use the example of somebody who's afraid of public speaking. They get up there on stage and they think that everybody in the audience is focused on them. And so all of these people are now thinking about them and they're thinking about what this person is saying and what this person looks like. And okay, there's a little bit of that. But most of the time, even if somebody is watching you on stage all by yourself, they are thinking about what you're saying and how it's affecting them. Now, if we actually knew this to be true, what would this allow for us to do and be? It would allow for us to be uninhibited. It would allow for us to care little or not at all about what other people think. Because even if you bombed on stage or said something ridiculous or just forgot what you were going to say and stood there for 5 minutes, yes, people would talk about it, maybe for a little bit of time, maybe for weeks afterwards, but eventually people wouldn't care. Look at somebody like Einstein or any famous person, people who have won the Nobel Prize. Are people thinking about them all the time? Absolutely not. And yet we're constantly worried about what people are thinking of us. We're constantly taking things personally. So if we can remember this one and realize that even if people do say things to us that are hurtful or not nice and that are directly intended to maybe hurt us, it's up to us to decide how we want to respond. It's up to us to remember that eventually nobody's going to care. So why bother taking it personally? Finding your needs. Our emotions are a signal. They're telling us something. And when we don't listen to our emotions, we're disconnecting from life. Because life, what we are, is teaching us constantly, is trying to show us and point us in the direction of oneness. So when we feel disconnected, whether that's from a person or from ourselves, it's because we're feeling alienated from our needs. And the need is always for connectivity. The need is always for oneness with spirit, for oneness with consciousness. And when we're taking something personally, what have we done? We've separated ourselves from everything. We've become so deeply identified with the personal self that we feel that we're separate from everything else. And whenever we do that, our emotions are pointing us in the direction of reminding us, signaling to us that that's what we're doing. And that's why it feels so bad. Now, underneath all of our negative emotions is always one foundational principle at the root of it, and that is separation. Because whenever we believe in separation, we are going to be taking things personally. So because separation is always what we're trying to heal, no matter what the negative emotion is, it can be anger, jealousy, sadness, rage, it doesn't matter. It's all rooted in separation, using empathy to heal separation. So the actual how-to here to not take something personally is to use empathy. Now, this feels incredibly counterintuitive when you're angry or you're upset in some way, shape, or form to start thinking now of the other person that you're angry with. But what this does is it allows for you to see the situation differently. And all change is a change in perception. So when we can see the situation differently, then we can begin to do what? We can begin to lift the limitations that we've placed on the person or the situation. So in order to do this, we need to take a pause. We need to take a breath. We need to stop what we're doing and just be with what's happening inside of us instead of projecting and blaming and criticizing and judging the situation or the person. So once we take this pause and we take this breath and we say to ourselves, can I find empathy for this person? We do this by asking ourselves questions like, what is it that this person is feeling right now? What is it that this person is needing right now? Those are the two most important questions that we can ask. And then when we actually begin to discover what could this person be feeling and what is it that I think that they're needing, then we begin to see much more clearly what's actually going on. We've relinquished, we've let go of the need of making it about us. And that's huge. That's the key. What this does that's so miraculous is that it opens up the floor to understanding, for real understanding, not just sugarcoating it and thinking that we understand and assuming that we understand what's going on with this other person. No, what we're doing is we're actually creating space to begin to see their side of it. And then when we begin to soften, the other person begins to soften. And then what happens is connection. Connection happens when there's a yielding quality, when there's a merging, when there's an understanding taking place, there's a softening. There is never, ever going to be any merging when there's two hard stones that are not coming together, right? There's never, ever going to be any connection when that's going on. When we soften, then there's this ability for merging. There's an ability for union. There's an ability for healing and for oneness. I hope that this video has helped you. I hope that you can begin to implement some of these things in your life so that you can stop taking things personally, so that you can remember that you are, in fact, never separate from anything or anyone. I love you all so much. Until next time, remember to let go. Let go of trying to be anything other than the truth of what you are.